So I'm Almuth McDowall, not Almuth, as many people say. I'm native German, and we just don't have a TH sound in Germany. So it's Almuth, almost like a D at the end. So I'm the head of the Department for Organizational Psychology. I'm also one of the assistant deans for our school here of business and economics and informatics. And that means that I'm part of the senior management committee for our school. I also wear other hats. I also lead one of our research groups in the department, and I contribute to our research excellence framework strategy. I'm also a very active contributor to the college's Central Athena Swan Committee. And as if that wasn't enough, of course, I'm also a program director. I direct modules. I supervise BSc and MSc students, and I'm also first supervisor to 3 doctoral candidates here in the department. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Interesting. I don't really tend to think about career or progression. I tend to think about what I do and what I love doing. So actually I came into my field of organizational psychology, as they call it here at Birkbeck, occupational, and the rest of the UK, as a mature student. I initially trained as a classical dancer, then worked for many years as a personal instructor. And then when I realized that there's a really deep connection between what people do physically and mentally, I then retrained in psychology, realized very swiftly that it was the world of work that interested me. So then did my BSc, then my MSc, and then my PhD. And I actually started out my professional practice really in consultancy, leading a consultancy unit at then City University, which I absolutely loved doing, working with a whole variety of organizations, advising them on assessment and development, and in particular what we call psychometric testing, so how to assess people quantitatively. I then got my first full-time academic post because I realized actually it was research that interested me more than anything else. Then worked for quite some years at the University of Surrey. Then actually took a brief break to dip my foot back into industry and think, actually, do I want to go back to consultancy? Because being totally and bluntly honest, I can triple my salary out in industry. So consulted again for a summer on a really big European project that I led. Absolutely loved it, raked it in, but realized I really missed the students and the research, and that's what brought me back to academia, and that's really what brought me here to Birkbeck. So that's kind of my career journey in a nutshell. So as I said earlier, I'm an organizational psychologist. That's what all my research is about. It's very field-based, very applied. All of the research that I do is working with organizations rather than doing, I don't know, studies in a laboratory or on a computer. So it's all out there. It's all got very tangible and practical implications. It's also difficult to do because if there is one constant in organizations at the moment, it's that they're all changing and that they're very fluid. And what that invariably means for our research as well is that we have to adapt and be very fluid, and in a sense adapt what we want to do theoretically and also empirically, really robustly. It kind of also needs to fit what organizations are doing and what they can do, and also, of course, what is, of genuine, tangible value to them. Interesting question. I don't to ask myself whether or not I feel successful. What I tend to ask myself, do I love what I'm doing? And absolutely, 100% yes. There is no job in the world that I'd rather be doing than what I do now. I love bringing the science of work, science of psychology to the world of work. I absolutely love working with our students here at Birkbeck, because that's the nice thing about being in a university where you've got such a large body of mature learners. They all want to be here. they really want to make a difference to their lives, and it's a privilege to support that. Now, of course, also relatively recently, I've stepped into a more senior management role, now leading a department of academics, which comes with its own trials and tribulations, because academics kind of want to do their own thing. They don't particularly want to be led by somebody. So that's sometimes quite an interesting path to navigate, because absolutely I do want people to feel that they've got that academic freedom, and I want them to be able to pursue their own research interests and to put their own stamp on things. At the same time, though, we have to recognize that the context for UK higher education is changing fundamentally. To be honest, none of us really know exactly what the challenges will be for us. With all the talk about Brexit, that will have an impact on the international students that we can recruit and will recruit. So that means that we have to position ourselves differently in terms of the education that we deliver, how we deliver programs, and that means that we will have to adapt. And that sometimes is quite a challenge to get people to recognize actually that you will need to change things a bit, because really it's for the greater good, and it's for us, it's for the department, it's for the school, it's for the university. So I guess it was a long-winded answer to asking, do I see my career as successful? Successful in the sense that I'm able to do what I really love doing, absolutely. I also think it's a helpful thing to have the organizational psychology training that I've got, and in a sense I hope in a good way feed that into my management role, which is not to say that I'm not learning sometimes the hard way, that actually there's a real gulf between what the textbooks say, what might be helpful, and what then actually works in practice, when you realize actually you haven't got the budget to support this, or you might not have the resources to do kind of what really the textbooks say would be the ideal solution, because reality is that what we do on the ground, on the shop floor, kind of has to be different. It has to adapt to what it is that we're dealing with at any moment in time. It's not any one thing, but I think it's a whole interplay of sources of support that I think have been helpful to me. First and foremost, I couldn't have retrained as a psychologist without the unwavering support of my husband, who really encouraged me to say, do you know what, if you want to go back to uni and study psychology, go for it. Without his encouragement, I don't think I would have quite made that leap, because when I was a dancer, I was used to think, I wasn't academic, it wasn't really for me. So the support from my husband has been absolutely instrumental. The support also from my peers and the friends that I've got around me, and in particular also my professional friends, such as my long-term collaborator and senior colleague and very dear friend Gail. We've done many research projects over the years, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be where I am now without Gail's encouragement. And last but not least, also it has been support from senior colleagues, because I wouldn't have stepped up into the management role that I've got now if my boss, our executive dean, would have said, do you know what, I trust you, you've got what it takes to do this. And that encouragement also has been real fuel for me to go, actually kind of might take me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but sometimes that actually is a good thing, and you have to be courageous to make those leaps, to progress, and also hopefully bring other people with you. Gosh, my 20-year-old self was a rather different person, thinking back, with dreadful taste in clothes. You're talking about the mid-80s, and that was not a good time. Anyway, leaving aside the shoulder pads and the bad perm, what advice would I give to me? I guess to be courageous and to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And sometimes you have to make a leap of faith, and also have faith in yourself to kind of push yourself, that little bit further. Having said that, I think it was a good time for me to come into psychology when I did, because I think there's something to be said for going into psychology as a mature student. Once, I know it always sounds like such a cliche to have had a little bit of life experience, but you know, it does help. And certainly the more strategic work that I do now with organizations, where I often work with very senior leaders, it does help. But I wouldn't have had the experience that I've got now without having made some leaps at some point in time. And also follow your gut instinct. I could think of a couple of times in my career when I hasten to add, not here, in different places, when really it wasn't happy for me and it wasn't a good environment. Actually, with hindsight, I think actually I would have jumped just a little bit sooner to spare myself some times of unhappiness. And I think that there will be a bit of advice that I would give to my 20-year-old self. Actually, do listen to your inner voice. And when your inner voice says it's time to go, it's time to go.